The Guardian of the Eternal Flame Mountain, Part 1. The Sacred Fire and the Oath Long Ago. When Vietnam was still known as Von Lang, there stood a sacred mountain called Mount Thousand Flames. Mountain towered high into the sky, shrouded in mist all year round. Birds that flew halfway would turn back, and forest beasts that neared its base would fall silent. Legend had it that atop this mountain burned a sacred fire, gifted by the heavens, that had blazed for 1,000 years, never extinguished. It was said to hold the soul of the nation, a fire left behind by the ancestors of the Vietnamese people. No one dared to touch that fire. The villagers believed only those with a pure heart, unshakable will, and selfless spirit could approach and pray for its blessings. But if someone tried to take the fire for selfish gain, disaster would befall not just that person, but the entire village, perhaps even the whole region. At the foot of Mount Thousand Flames was a small village called Stone Forge Village. There lived a young man named Thach, who had been orphaned since childhood. He made a living forging knives and hoes and repairing farm tools for the villagers. Though poor Thach was known for his gentle nature, hard work, and kindness, especially toward the elderly and children. One year, a terrible drought struck for 3 long months. The sky was cloudless, rivers dried to stone, fields cracked like snakeskin, and the trees withered. Livestock collapsed from thirst. The villagers survived on wild roots and muddy puddles left in shaded hollows. Many fell ill, the children cried in exhaustion, and the elders sat in silence, staring up at the pitiless sky. In the midst of despair, the village elder, Old Man T, his hair white as clouds, called Thach over and whispered, "My child, there's only one last hope. Climb the Thousand Flame Mountain. Ask for the sacred fire." Thach was stunned. For over 100 years, no one had dared go near the mountain. Old Man T continued, "You are kind and your heart is pure. If anyone can approach the flame, it is you. But remember this, above all, only ask for the fire. Do not bring it down. Otherwise the 1,000-year curse will awaken." Thach bowed his head in solemn agreement. That night, under the golden moonlight, he quietly prepared for the journey. He brought with him a bundle of incense sticks, an old oil lamp, and a pinch of ashes from the village hearth, a symbol of the people's spirit. And in his heart he carried a vow: for the sake of the village, I will reach that mountaintop. Thach began his journey at dawn the next day. The sky was heavy with mist, and wind from the mountain howled like the cries of ancient spirits. There was no trail up Mount Thousand Flames, only jagged rocks, tangled roots, and towering cliffs. Every step felt like entering another world. The higher he climbed, the colder the air became, and the wind cut sharper. Trees gave way to massive, moss-covered boulders. As he walked, Thach quietly repeated the sacred chant Elder T had taught him: "Seek fire for the people, not for oneself. Ask for blessings, not for power." By midday, he came upon a small stream, its waters clear as glass. Strangely, in the midst of a brutal drought, this stream still babbled merrily, untouched by dryness. Thach knelt and took a sip. The coolness spread through his body like a miracle, wakening every fiber of his being. Across the stream sat an old woman with white hair and a hunched back, picking leaves quietly. Thach bowed respectfully and asked, "Grandmother, I'm searching for the way to the mountaintop to ask for the sacred flame. Could you help me find the path?" The old woman raised her head. Though her eyes were cloudy, her voice was clear. "Seeking the flame, are you? Do you know that it is a sacred place where ordinary folk rarely survive?" "I know," he replied, but my village is suffering. I will go, even if it means death." An old woman smiled, and suddenly her eyes glowed faintly like embers. "Very well. Head northeast. When you see a pine tree with its top broken off, face the rising sun. There you'll see a hidden path." Thach bowed deeply in gratitude. But as he turned back to thank her again, the old woman was gone. In her place lay a small branch of fragrant leaves atop a rock, releasing a gentle scent like smoke from a village hearth. GCH picked it up and carefully tucked it into his shirt. A strange warmth rose within him, as if unseen hands were guiding his path. After receiving the sacred flame, Thosh carefully held the oil lamp close to his chest and began his descent from the holy realm. As the stone gate closed behind him, the mountain wind began to blow again, but this time it wasn't cold. It was warm, as if invisible hands were watching over him. The path down the mountain was no longer shrouded in mist. The fog slowly lifted, the trees seemed to breathe again, and birds sang softly from the branches. Thosh walked through the night, and the next day, without weariness, as if guided by a hidden strength, he reached the village just as twilight fell. The villagers were huddled around dying embers, their faces drawn and exhausted. But when they saw Thosh appear at the far end of the road, holding a glowing lamp, something stirred in them. Shouts rang out. "Thosh has returned. Look at the flame, the sacred fire." Thosh said nothing. He simply placed the oil lamp in the center of the village courtyard. The flame danced gently in the evening breeze, but did not waver. Its light spread across the space like warm water flowing into every heart. Old Man T stepped forward, leaning on his cane, eyes misty with tears. "You have kept your vow. Our village is saved." That very night, the villagers carried the lamp from house to house. They relit their hearths, boiled water, and cooked porridge. Fire sprang back to life in every home, like the return of breath to the chest of a slumbering soul. And strangely enough, from that night onward, soft rain began to fall. Trees turned green again, ponds and wells slowly filled with water. People called it a miracle, but Old Man T quietly said to Thosh, "Not all miracles come from gods. Some flames burn only because of the human heart." Years passed. The drought became a distant memory, spoken of only by the elders. The fields turned green again, children laughed in the river, and the sound of blacksmiths' hammers rang joyfully once more in stone. Forge Village. The oil lamp that carried the sacred flame was placed in the village temple, burning night and day. It never once flickered, even in storms. Villagers came to it not to worship a god, but to remember the courage of a man who walked into the unknown with nothing but hope and love for his people. GCH refused any honor. He continued to work as a blacksmith, fixing hoes and mending sickles, smiling gently when people called him the one who walked with fire. He never spoke of what he saw on the mountaintop. It wasn't meant for words, he once told a child, only for hearts that burn quietly. When Thosh grew old and passed away, the village held a great gathering. They lit thousands of small lanterns from the eternal flame and floated them down the river. The flames danced across the water, like stars returning to the sky. Legend says that on misty mornings, if you climb halfway up Mount Thousand Flames, you may see a figure in the distance, walking slowly, holding a faintly glowing lamp, they say. The mountain remembers. They say the flame still burns. They say, wherever someone holds their people above themselves, the sacred fire will light their path. Asterisk, there are flames that never die, not because of oil or wind, but because the human heart still holds warmth. If you believe that somewhere in the middle of this busy life, there are still stories like Thosh's, quiet, steadfast, and full of compassion, then please subscribe to the channel and help us keep the fire alive for these timeless tales to be told with love and respect. Thank you for listening. See you again in the next Vietnamese folktale. Following the old woman's directions, Thosh headed northeast. The forest grew denser with mist. Sunlight faded into a dull glow behind a pale curtain of fog. Thosh didn't stop. He gripped the bundle of incense tightly, his will as firm. As mountain stone, at last, he spotted an old pine tree with its top broken off, standing bare and lonesome in the gray mist. Remembering the elder's words, Thosh turned toward the rising sun. There, through the haze, a narrow path revealed itself as if carved by the earth and sky in that very moment. The path was lined with smooth green stones, flanked by ancient stone statues covered in moss. They bore carvings of dragons, tigers, and other mythical beasts unknown to man. Thosh stepped into the stone corridor. The world around him fell unnaturally silent, no wind, no birdsong. Only the sound of his footsteps echoing into the distance. At the end of the path stood a towering stone gate, 3 times a man's height. Its surface was etched with flames that seemed to flicker as if alive. At the top of the gate was an inscription in ancient script. Those who walk for the people enter. Those who walk for greed turn away. Thach bowed his head and prayed, I am a blacksmith from Stoneforge village. I come not for myself, but to ask for the fire that may save my suffering people. As his words ended, the gate began to glow. Crimson light ran along the carved flames, and the massive doors slowly opened, revealing a radiant world beyond, like a dream made of fire and sky. Inside stood a colossal tree, its branches stretching toward the heavens. At its crown burned the sacred flame, brilliant, smokeless. Untiring like the beating heart of the earth itself, Thach fell to his knees, lifting the old oil lamp high in his hands, whispering, Grant me fire to light the way for my people. I will not take it, only borrow its warmth. Suddenly the flame above bent downward. A single strand of light fell gently into Thach's oil lamp. It burst into a steady blaze, not hot, not consuming, but alive, as though it breathed in his. Hands, tears welled in Thach's eyes. In that moment, he understood. This flame was not something to possess. It was a vow.